We are open for lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, or virtual lunch, that is. I'm Marlis Arnold, and welcome to Virtual Lunch. We're going to give just a few minutes. I know sometimes it takes a little bit for people to get on board here, so we're going to do like we usually do, and I'm going to share some links with you. If you miss out in the beginning, if you're catching this on the replay, thanks for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and start here. Let's see. Let's start. Oh, let's go to our friend Hadley from EvConFitness is doing yoga twice a week, virtual yoga. Well, it's not virtual. Trust me, you really feel it. I joined in last week and it was my first time ever doing yoga. And wow, I did the Thursday. I think Tuesday she does it at 7 a.m. So I think maybe it's a little bit more kind of wake up slowly kind of thing. I joined the Thursday one at noon and I didn't know yoga was a workout. So anyway, I was hurting on Friday. But anyway, it's a great event to be able to, get together with other friends in the events and trade show industry. And Hadley does a really good job of walking you through. I got lost a few times just because I don't know what I'm doing, but she's really good about walking you through all the steps and everything. So anyway, I've got some special links here. If you go to the first one, Yoga Tuesday, obviously that registers you for the Tuesday morning sessions that she's doing each week. And then Yoga Thursday, you'll get registered for Thursdays at noon. So anyway, so there are those two links. Also, if you are looking or you have open positions at your company, TSNN has their jobs board. And so that's a great resource right now, especially. So be sure to check that out. And then also I have my recommended business tools. So if you are looking for like project management tools or team management, that kind of thing, I've put together a chart. This is actually part of my strategic time management strategies for exhibit marketers. I think that's right. It's sad. I can't remember the name of my own class, but anyway, it feels like a Monday, even though it's not. Anyway, it's a part of that class, but I've pulled it out separately. So it's a chart that you can get, actually, this is the link to the business tools. This is the link to the project management chart. Boy, it really is a Monday. It's like, I actually read there's a term, I don't remember what it is, but there's actually a term for not being able to keep track of what day it is. It's not dyslexia, but it's something kind of like that. That's like, you can't remember what it is. So we're all suffering from whatever this malady is. But anyway, so there's the link to the free project management tools chart. So there you go. All right. So as you come on, go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments and I'll pop that up on the screen so we can see who's here. But my husband, Alan, is joining us behind the scenes as always for virtual lunch. And so he's going to be popping some other links in there that I will post. The first one I want to share is it's actually a quite funny. We just discovered this last night. You're all familiar with GoToMeeting, right? Okay. Well, this is a farm, or I guess it's actually kind of a collection of several farms went together. And I just love the creativity that's coming out of this whole mess. I mean, people are being so innovative and so creative, but they actually have a service where you can rent a goat to join your meeting. And so they call it GoToMeeting. So I will pop that up there. So, gives a whole new meaning to Zoom bombing, right? You get Zoom bombed by a llama or a goat. So anyway, so that one, that's just a fun one. Okay, so then moving on to something a little bit more serious here. Alan's also going to put up, there is a survey that the Brand Experience Collective is doing on the new normal. So if you want to take part in that, it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So that he's going to pop that in. I'll put that link up here. And also don't worry too much about the links. I put them up on the screen some of them are kind of long. The links, if you're in the Facebook Live, you'll see the link there. And you can click in the comments. You can click the link and just go to it. Otherwise, when I put this up on YouTube, I will also put all the links in the comment or in the description on YouTube as well. So, but there's the link to go take the Brand Experience Collective survey. And on the topic of surveys, PCMA also did a survey, and they have a PDF that you can download. I got that yesterday, and it was really interesting. Actually, let's see, I've got a little bit of it here. So they have a planner section, a supplier section. So Alan, I'll have you go ahead and put up the link for the article from TSNN that summarizes, but it also has a link where you can go download that PDF. But they were talking about, moving your events to virtual for one thing, and then like how the whole situation has affected you and your organization and all those kinds of things. And then it was interesting that they've got, do you anticipate there will be pent up demand to meet face to face once this is behind us? So there's some interesting insights in there as well. So, okay, so here we go. So kind of a long address again, I know, but if you go to TSNN into the news section, you should be able to find it really easily. It's 8 trends from the PCMA survey. So you can go in, read the article with the summary. That's all you need. If you really want the PDF, which is only like, 10 or 15 pages long, it's not a huge, massive results report. So anyway, so there you go on that. Let's see. Oh, and on the topic of going virtual, it's been interesting to see what some companies are doing with that. And there's an article on what CVBs are doing, or Convention and Visitors Bureau, if you're not familiar with the initials there. CVBs are doing some interesting things to promote their venues and their locations. And so there's a link for that I know Alan's going to be putting in here in just a second. Okay, so here's, again, another article from TSNN on how CVBs are designing virtual experiences. And then we actually went and checked out, we found one that's really, really cute. It's a video that the CVB in Ashville, North Carolina did. And they've got this cute little dog, this little corgi named Sammy. And Sammy does a tour of Asheville. So Alan's going to put that link up there. It looks like it's coming from me, but he's actually the one typing all these in. So he's going to put up that link for Sammy's tour of Asheville. And it's really cute. He goes to Biltmore and he goes all over town. It's a really clever thing. So, even, those of us that are in the trade show world, how can we take and think of some of these kinds of things? Like, look at what the CVBs are doing and figure out, as an exhibitor, how could you take some of these same kinds of things and make them work? Or as a show organizer, what could you do? How could you create some kind of a virtual experience that would be memorable for people? So, go check out some of these ideas. They're not only entertaining, they're also educational and research, right? Okay. All right. So let's see. I think that's it for the links for now. So go ahead, if you'd like, go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments. And we're going to kind of transition over here into our topic of the day, which is, what are the questions or issues that need to be addressed before trade shows can reopen? I know at this point, everybody's getting anxious. Everybody's like, oh, we're tired of quarantine. Let's get this show on the road, literally. But there's got to be some progression and some strategy that comes in. There's actually Event Leadership Institute did a really good article on talking about the 3 phases that need to happen. And so Alan's going to put that up for us here in just a second. But basically, the first phase is where we're at now. It's where everything's purely virtual. There are no in-person meetings. Everything has to happen online. That's where we're at. Second phase is that there can be maybe some local meetings with restrictions. So that'll be the second phase of where we go. And then the third phase will be when we're actually returning to, we can't really say normal, but the whatever revised version of events looks like, and how will that work. So I thought this was a really good article because it just kind of like steps it out. And, I think Alan sat in on a webinar for the travel industry yesterday. And first of all, it was encouraging to hear that most of the hotels in China are now back open again. Granted, they're only at about 30% occupancy, but it does actually indicate that people are starting to get out and about and travel and move, throughout the economy. So that's a good sign. We're still a ways behind China, unfortunately. So, there's not a specific timeline at this point. I know everybody's pushing for specific dates. And, a lot of the surveys you'll see is, when do you plan on having your next live event? And everybody's just shooting blind at this point. I mean, there is no hard and fast date of, when we're going to move past all of this. I think that's what we need to stay focused on. And that was one thing Alan said they talked about in the webinar yesterday was focus on the data and the facts, not a specific date. If we sit here and we say, okay, we're going to open back up by July 1st, well, that may or may not be a realistic strategy. In my personal opinion, it's not a realistic strategy. I think, based on these three phases, I think that we'll be in phase 2 for quite a while. I think it's going to be quite some time before phase 3 opens back up with travel and, nationwide big full-blown conventions. I don't like it. I'm like you. This is my industry. This is where my heart is. And it's sad. It breaks my heart to see how many events are having to cancel and scramble and change their plans. But we got to do this right. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I haven't heard, if you've heard of that, there's an actual solid, commission or committee or whatever putting together some guidelines, please let me know. I'm not aware of anything. How I would see it at this point is that the industry associations like PCMA, MPI, IAEE, they need to come together and develop some lists of, these are the criteria, these are the things that we need to think about, that we need to do. And put together kind of like how they have the IAEE has the standards for exhibiting, like how high your back walls can be in exhibits and all that kind of stuff. I think there need to be some standards, some industry standards created. So on that, there's another article that Alan's going to put up here from Special Events magazine. They've got a whole checklist. It's a really great checklist of what needs to be considered for special events to happen again or trade shows. And it's a really, it gives you a lot of things to think about. So I thought it was a really great resource. So we're going to put that up here. Again, I know it's a long one, but hopefully you can, if you get to specialevents.com, hopefully you can find it from there. But what I want to do is kind of walk through. I read an article this week that not for our industry, but was comparing what's going on to Apollo 13, which happened 50 years ago this month, the Apollo 13 crisis. Most of us are not old enough to remember that, but probably a lot of you have seen the movie with Tom Hanks. So you're familiar with the whole Houston, we have a problem. So, Houston, we have a major problem right now. Houston and everybody else. But anyway, what they talked about in this article was how they handled that crisis. I mean, it was like bizarre stuff that nobody had really anticipated, but yet they had systems and checklists and things, they went to plan A and plan B, and, so it was working through the problem. And they also, Houston, the guys in Houston had command. They were structuring, and they were walking through this with them. So I think that parallels to what I was just talking about, where we need to have a Houston. Basically, we need to have somebody in charge of this, so it's not just like every trade show and every event out there is trying to figure it out on their own. There needs to be some cohesion. So I think that's where we need to go from here. So and then there's one other article that I want to put up here, and then I want to kind of just talk through some of the points of some things that I think that we need to be paying attention to. So Alan, if you can go ahead and put up that iMeet article. And this one was talking about physical distancing and some of the really, the more tactical things of what shows need to be and events need to be thinking about. So here's that one from iMeet on physical distancing and meeting setups. So let's just kind of move into that part of the topic. That's going to be a big part of the issue, is how do you handle the distancing aspect? In your sessions, are you going to have your session? I mean, I don't see keynotes where everybody's shoulder to shoulder and all the chairs are hooked together. I don't think that's going to happen for quite some time. So, how will you handle it in sessions? How will you handle it in the meal planning, or like if you do breakouts with the rounds, if you have a round that normally seats 8, you're only going to put 4 people at the table. And then trade shows. How are you going to space out your trade shows? Alan and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like, well, yeah, you can drop off some booths and then you can spread your show floor out more. But still, if you're an exhibitor with a 10 by 10, that's not much space. And if you've got to keep distance, you've got maybe one staffer and you can have one person walk in your booth, and that's all you can do. And so it's going to be interesting to try to figure all this out. And I'm not pretending to say that I've got all the answers. I just want to put some things out there for everybody to start thinking about, because I think now's the time. We need to get our ducks talking about the little the little guy in the corner there, sponsored by, powered by StreamYard. Get our ducks in a row here and figure out what we're going to do before that time comes. So distancing is one thing. The cleaning of the venue, how is the venue sterilized and cleaned, and how often and what, and, all those kinds of things. So, if you're joining us and you're from a venue, if you're with a convention center or hotel, start thinking about what are you going to do? How are you going to keep your venue clean and sterile and safe for people? And then, of course, screening of attendees. Are we going to have temperature monitoring? There's even some things I've been reading about, they're working on developing a instant test for the virus. So, will it be where everybody's got to pass through and get tested before they're allowed to enter a venue? Are people going to have to show some kind of proof, that they are not sick when they come, or, there's all these kinds of things. How are we going to think through all of this? How are we going to set guidelines for these things? And will there be PPE provided on site for people? Will there be masks and gloves available? Hand sanitizer is a no-brainer once they can finally get it manufactured again. But there's going to be a lot of things that we got to think through on this. Touch-free devices. How many events have you been to lately where, you check yourself in on an iPad, or they have iPads outside of the session rooms, and you use that to either check yourself in or fill out your session evaluation afterwards? Nobody's going to want to be touching those, right? So we're going to have to look at touchless devices. How will registration work? What are people going to be doing to check themselves in if they're not going to do self-registration at kiosks because nobody wants to touch anything? And I know I've seen, and it's stuff that comes back to you and you're like, oh man, I wish I could remember who that was that does that. I know I've seen something where it's like you can like just scan your driver's license or something and it prints out your badge for you. Maybe those kinds of things can take off. There's so much to think about right now. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, elevators. Most elevators are not that big, especially in a hotel or a convention center, so and hotels, especially like you go to Chicago or Vegas, you got a 20 some story hotel. So, you're not going to want to climb the stairs. How's this going to work? So things like that. And then of course, since Alan's background, he's in charge of events at a hotel. He made the comment, our buffet's gone. Is everything going to have to be box lunches? How are those kinds of things with food and beverage going to be handled? Just so many questions. And of course, networking events. Even if we get the whole trade show floor figured out, the whole, meeting after hours and schmoozing and having, the cocktail hour in the lobby. I don't know. That's not going to be too appealing to a lot of people probably for a while. So, there's so many things to think about. And basically, I think the big key right now is we need to make sure we've got transparency and human connection, empathy in all of this. As we're thinking through a lot of these questions, we need to be, thinking them through from our attendees' perspective. Put yourself in the attendee's shoes. And, I have to admit, even on a normal day, I'm somewhat of a germaphobe. I'm not extreme. I mean, I'm not like a whole, who's the celebrity? One of the judges on American Idol or something. Anyway, he's always the fist bump. He won't touch anybody's hand. He just fist bumps or elbow bumps or whatever. Is that going to be our society now? Will handshakes be gone? There's so many things we need to just think through of a perspective for our attendees. Oh, I see we've got a comment from Fred. Hi, Fred. Thanks for joining us today. So he says the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry estimates that as of March, canceled events have resulted in more than $26 billion worth of lost contracts. To get a good idea of the impact, please read the editorial by Travis Stanton in the latest issue of Exhibitor magazine. Getting the industry back will take more than masks and gloves. Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, there's so much that has happened. And there's so many people that are going to be struggling. There's companies that we probably won't see come back. There may be associations that can't keep going after this. It's going to be a giant shakedown in the entire trade show industry. And hopefully there will be things done to help a lot of these companies. I know that there's a lot that's been happening to try to help people in the event industry. Will it be enough soon enough? I don't know. Rama, hi. Rama is one of our virtual lunch regulars here. So, that's okay. It happens. You missed earlier, Rama, but I said it feels like a Monday for me. I can't remember anything. So at least you're here and you could always go back and watch the replay. So, it's great to have everybody here, even if, and I know right now there is no such thing as a schedule. Everybody's like in and out and, it's hard to keep track of anything. So I get that. That's why I archive these. So you can always go back and watch the replay. So, but definitely this is a conversation that needs to happen throughout the industry at all levels. And I think that, it needs to happen now. It's not something that we say, oh, well, events are going to open up this summer, so we need to figure it out by then. No, we need to figure it out now. So now is the time to start thinking through these questions. I'm going to go back and put that one list up again of the checklist. Let's see. This was the checklist from special events. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the one that I think was just, had such a great list of things to think about. I know Joan Eisenstadt. I don't think Joan is here with us. At least she hasn't popped in yet today to say anything. But, Joan this has been a soapbox for her. In fact, I interviewed Joan on the Trade Show Insights podcast. Was it last year or year before? I forget. Anyway, a while back, about risk management and planning for disasters. And we were talking more about hurricanes, or if you have an attendee who gets sick or dies, or, things like that. Not that any of us could expect anything like this. But, there's so many things that need to be thought through and put in place. And I'm hoping that that's what comes out of this, is that everybody kind of takes time to really put those lenses on and focus on what needs to be done to make events safer. At the time we were talking also about the mass shootings and things that were going on that way, and disasters. But, just thinking through, how can you try to be prepared and protect your attendees and your exhibitors as much as possible. So anyway, so that's our topic for today. So if anybody else has any comments that you want to share, go ahead and type those in the comments. We're going to wrap up here pretty quick. I'm going to give you just a second if anybody's got any last thoughts. And we can also carry this over if we want to do this on another week for the virtual cafe, because we are doing this every Tuesday at noon Central. I see Ramah has a comment here. I don't know how we figure this out. I don't think people realize the extent of what will need to change. Yeah, and exactly. There's so many things. It's hard to think of them all. One very basic thing that I keep bringing up in different forums is not even the show floor or class seating arrangements. What do we do in hotels as we deal with elevators? Yeah, and I had mentioned that probably just before you got on. The elevators are going to be scary. Do you want to wait in line while each elevator car takes up one person or family group? Yeah, it's, there's a lot of things that we need to think about. And that's why I said we can't start focusing too much on timelines until we get our facts together and get our strategies together. And so I hope that I really, really hope that the industry takes time to put a plan together and have a cohesive strategy, because like Alan and I were talking yesterday, it's really not going to help if Chicago does this and Vegas does this and Orlando does this, and you got to have some cohesiveness so that people, especially attendees, as they're going to events, they know what they can expect. And it's not like they have to figure it out or research what needs to be done or what's going to be done for them at each event that they attend. So this is an ongoing conversation, but it's a conversation that better be started now. So, and maybe I will send copies of this video to all the major associations to try to kind of spur them on. But yeah, this is a very important conversation. Virtual events, actually, Fred, that's a good topic for another, virtual lunch. Virtual events is, like I said, that's phase one. That's where we're at right now, is everything's virtual. I will actually share, I putting myself out there as a virtual events host, because I've been doing webinars and podcasts and all these things for over a decade. So I actually put together some services that I can provide for organizations to help them as a virtual event host. But, virtual is going to be the thing for now. And I think it's also going to be I've been saying this for a long time. Everybody in the trade show world has been scared to death of virtual events because it's going to kill the trade shows. Well, if we'd have been a little less scared of virtual events a while back, we'd be in better shape right now. But there you go. That's my personal opinion. But I think that it's really important to merge the two. As we start to come back, virtual events are not going to go away. In fact, some people, especially for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe, are going to feel a lot more comfortable with the virtual side of things. And they still want to be involved with an event and they'd love to go, but they may not quite feel comfortable, or maybe they're immune compromised and they really can't put themselves in any kind of risk. So I think virtual events are definitely going to stay a major part of the industry. And everybody just got to get over themselves and realize that it's okay. Kind of getting on a lot of soapboxes today, aren't I? But anyway, but yes. So to answer your question, Fred, we can definitely address virtual events. We could even make that our topic for next week, for next Tuesday's lunch. So, in fact, I'll just call it right now. We'll focus on virtual events next week, and then we may come back to on this topic a little bit as well. So anyway, I think that's it. I'm not seeing anything else in the comments. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out to join us today, whether you're here live in the cafe or you're joining us in the replay. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I hope that you gained some things from this talk today. If you joined us late, be sure you go back and watch the replay, because I covered a lot of things and we've got some great links there in the comments that you can go get some further research on some of these topics. It's just, we got to all pull together. Everybody keeps saying we're in this together. Well, in the trade show industry, we are definitely in this together, and we've got to figure it out together. So that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week for virtual lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. Bye.